Have you ever heard of Alex? Alex is the friend you can call at 2 a.m. for a ride from the airport. No questions asked. Alex is also the coworker who takes on extra projects, even when their own plate is overflowing. They're the one who agrees to a weekend trip they can't afford just because everyone else is going. On the surface, Alex is the perfect friend, the ideal employee. But underneath the constant smiling and yes, of course, Alex is exhausted, overwhelmed, and starting to feel a little lost. If any part of Alex's story feels familiar, then this video is for you. We're going to talk about that deep, almost compulsive need to make others happy. We're talking about people pleasing. And we're going to uncover why it's not just about being nice, and how this seemingly harmless trait might be costing you more than you think. So, what exactly is people pleasing? It's the tendency to put the needs and desires of others before your own, often at your own expense. It's saying yes when every fiber of your being is screaming no. This is where we hit our first and most important core misunderstanding. People pleasing is not the same as being kind. Kindness comes from a place of genuine care and strength. People pleasing, on the other hand, often comes from a place of fear. It's kindness with a hidden agenda, the desperate need for approval.
Let's be real. Genuine kindness doesn't usually leave you feeling secretly resentful and emotionally bankrupt. People-pleasing, however, is the VIP pass to Burnout City. It's fear with really good PR. It's a survival tactic disguised as selflessness. So, if it's not about being nice, what is it really about? Why do we do it? Let's dive deep into the why. One of the biggest drivers is a profound fear of rejection. It's this little voice inside that whispers, if I don't do this, they won't like me anymore. This fear can turn you into a social chameleon, changing your colors to fit whatever background you're in. You become who you think others want you to be. Mini theater time. Your friends are all excited about going to a super loud, super crowded concert this weekend. Your ideal weekend involves a book, a blanket, and absolute silence. Someone asks, "You're coming, right? It won't be the same without you." The fear of being the odd one out, of disappointing them, kicks in. Before you know it, you hear yourself saying, "Of course, I can't wait." And just like that, you've sold your peaceful weekend for the low, low price of not making someone momentarily unhappy. A bargain, right? Another huge piece of the puzzle is self-worth. For many people pleasers, their sense of value isn't internal, it's outsourced. You feel worthy when you're being useful to others. Your value is tied to what you can provide. Your time, your energy, your agreement. It's a constant chase for external validation. It's like you need others to give you permission to feel good about yourself. That's a lot of power to hand over, isn't it? Mini theater part 2. At work, your boss asks if anyone can stay late to finish a presentation. It's your anniversary, but you see the stress on your boss's face. The thought of being the hero who saves the day is tempting. You volunteer, telling yourself it's about being a team player, but deep down, it's about proving your worth and being seen as indispensable. To really understand this, we often have to look back. For many, these patterns are rooted in our earliest experiences. Growing up, some of us may have learned that love and approval were conditional. You were praised when you were quiet, agreeable, and didn't cause any trouble. Your needs took a back seat. This can create a survival strategy known as fawning. You might have heard of fight, flight, or freeze as trauma responses. Fawning is the fourth one. You try to appease a threat to avoid conflict. As a child, this was a brilliant strategy to feel safe and secure. You learned that keeping the people around you happy was the key to keeping yourself safe. The problem is, that old software is still running in the background of your adult life. You're still trying to appease everyone, even when there's no real threat. So what's the big deal? You're making people happy, right? Well,
Let's talk about the hidden costs, starting with resentment. When you constantly say yes to things you don't want to do, a quiet anger starts to build. It's a slow-burning resentment towards the very people you're trying to please. You might find it leaking out in passive-aggressive ways, little sarcastic jokes, or forgetting to do something you promised. It's the anger that can't speak its name, so it communicates in code. You're basically a smiling volcano. On the outside, it's all calm and lovely, but on the inside, there's a simmering rage that's getting ready to complain to its one other friend who gets it. This constant self-neglect leads directly to burnout. You can't pour from an empty cup, and frankly, your cup isn't just empty, it's been collecting dust under the sink. Perhaps the most heartbreaking cost is the loss of your own identity. After years of prioritizing everyone else's preferences, you can lose touch with your own. Someone asks you a simple question, "What do you want to do?" And you draw a complete blank. You genuinely don't know anymore. Your own likes, dislikes, dreams, and boundaries have become so faint you can barely hear them. You've been listening to everyone else's soundtrack for so long, you've forgotten what your own music sounds like. It creates a strange kind of loneliness. You can be in a room full of people who adore you for everything you do for them, but feel completely unseen for who you actually are. Because if we're being honest, you haven't been showing them who you are. You've been showing them a carefully curated performance designed for maximum approval. Look, the goal here is not to become a selfish person who never helps anyone. The world needs compassionate and caring people. We just need you to include yourself in the circle of people you care for. Breaking this pattern isn't about flipping a switch. It's a process of unlearning and rediscovery. It starts with small acts of tuning into your own needs. It starts with pausing before you automatically say yes. It starts with giving yourself permission to be disappointed by others sometimes. It's okay if they have to deal with their own questionable music choices for once. Recognizing this pattern in yourself is the first giant step. It's not a flaw. You're a survivor who learned to adapt. So I'm curious, what's one small no you could give this week to say a bigger yes to yourself? Let's talk in the comments. You're not alone in this.